With a new Rocket League and a new season upon us, our climb to the top starts once again. So here are 10 tips to help you quickly climb out of the lower ranks. The tips today are going to be general tips you should be trying to incorporate if you're not doing so already. If you want more targeted tips for any specific rank, then be sure to check out my top 5 tips series for each rank. Rocket League can be extremely complicated and downright daunting to learn. My goal is to simplify the learning process as much as possible. So be sure to destroy that like button and smash subscribe if you'd like to see more content like this. To get an idea for which tips to highlight, I watched a lot of replays ranging from silver to platinum and came up with this list of 10. The timestamps for each topic will be in the description below, and let's get started with our first tip. One of the most common issues that I saw was with players' shooting position when waiting for a pass. More specifically, they are too close to the enemy net, causing the ball to either just boom over their head or go past them, making the shot impossible. Or even if they manage to get a touch, they might hit the bottom of the ball, making the ball go way too high and hitting the backboard. To fix this, you simply have to sit further back. I highly recommend anyone in the lower ranks to generally hang out where the ball spawns. This will give you a chance to clearly see the bounce or enemy mistakes on defense before making a decision on how to play the ball. I get it, you don't want to miss any potential passes by your teammates and get flamed for missing. But trust me, this will help you so much with your consistency and preventing enemy counterattacks. It will also help you get a bit more power on your shots, since you'll have a chance to build more momentum on the way to the ball, as opposed to flying straight up and then barely tapping it down. This is a very common issue, especially when I hear players ask, why can I hit all these shots in training packs, but I can't hit them in game? And a lot of it comes down to their positioning. You're not positioned in game the same way you are in these training packs. If we check out a couple shots here, you can see that in a lot of training packs, you actually start pretty far back as well. Tip number 2 deals with you being the passer. A lot of passes are made from the enemy corner, and just as we're shooting from further back, we also want to pass from further back. A lot of players were bringing passes over the backboard, and while this works sometimes, if your teammate's shot gets blocked, you have no one back to prevent the enemy counterattack. A couple things you could do is booming the ball once you're past the mid boost, or booming it over the corner and heading back right away. This way, if they clear the pass, you have a chance to recenter and keep the pressure going. Or if your teammate goes and gets blocked, you're already on the way back to prevent enemy counterattacks. Tip number 3, how do we hit the ball hard? On grounded balls, you simply boost into them and it'll punt them upwards. On bouncing ones, flip through the ball as it's bouncing upwards. And on the occasion you want to hit the ball flat on the ground to prevent stuff like this from happening, you simply have to hit either the center or the top of the ball. Basically, you can just do the opposite. So on grounded ones, flipping into it will keep it grounded. And on bouncing balls, hitting the ball when it's coming down instead of up and keep it low to the ground. This can help if you're worried about booming the ball too far up, especially on those open nets. I think it's about time we get into our first defensive tip. Goalie positioning. The most common position to take is right here on the far post. If you're not sure what far or near post means, simply divide the field in half, and whichever side doesn't have the ball, that goal post is going to be further from the ball than this one, making it the far post. Positioning here is advantageous since it gives you a chance to defend anywhere on net, and you don't risk shots getting in behind you. When rotating into defense, try to make it here to the far post, and when you're certain where the ball is going, push forward for the clear. Also, if you know your teammate is rotating into the net, then you need to open up the goalie position, so that's another time to go ahead and challenge. Make sure you're not actually in the net, because any shots coming to far post, you won't be able to get any momentum for a solid clear, unlike if you were here. There are a lot of different ways to play goalie, but far post is a great place to start. While we're on the topic of defense, we need to talk about where we want to clear to, and that is our own corner. The corner is the only spot in the field where it is virtually impossible for the enemy to score. And it's one of the best places to take a 50-50 when you're on defense. That way, even if you lose, it can't go directly into your net, it'll require a second opponent to sink it in as a pass. but if you have a teammate behind you, it gives them a great chance to get a solid clear. So unless you have a chance to boom the ball over your enemies, practice sending your saves into the corner whenever you're training your goalie skills. Far post rotations is a tip I have to mention. It is arguably the best tip in Rocket League, and if you find yourself doing this often, where you're awkwardly trying to save balls with your butt, or you're having to drift 180 to face the ball on defense, then you need to far post rotate more often. It basically just means that when we split the field in half, like we did earlier, when you want to rotate back, do it on the side that doesn't have the ball. This will ensure that your next touch is facing the ball. And far post rotations will help you get to that far post goalie position from tip number 4. There are a huge list of other benefits, and if you want to know more about far post rotations, it is the first tip in my tips to hit champ video, so check that out if you're interested. But for now, just trust me and start working this habit into your play early. It will make your rotations so much cleaner, and your teammates will thank you for it. Dribbling is one of my favorite aspects of Rocket League, and an extremely important tool in understanding ball control and for keeping possession. Tip number 7 is a simple dribble drill that you should be doing. For our dribbling drill, I simply want you guys to practice rolling the ball over all the 100 boosts. Just do a couple laps, make sure you're comfortable knowing how and where to block the ball to make it turn correctly to push it into every 100 boost. There's no need to go fast. This drill is to get you comfortable with understanding how the ball and the car interacts with one another on the ground. And for our more advanced viewers, if this is too easy for you, then you can do the same drill but with the ball on top of your car. Once you're comfortable with that, it's time to go around the pennies instead of the 100 boosts. If you haven't seen it already, the pennies are the same on every field and they sort of make a eye shape. There's these 2 extra semicircles of pennies around the goals, but what we're going to focus on is dribbling around the main eye shape. This training will double as a way for you to practice dribbling and knowing where the pennies are. That way in a match, if you have control of the ball but need that little bit of extra juice, you know where to get it. Boost, one of the most important aspects of Rocket League that makes Rocket League, well, Rocket League. Despite its importance, it is often one of the most overlooked subjects in Rocket League. So for tip number 8, we're going to talk about boost management. But why is boost management important? Players practice their mechanics, recoveries, and game speed tirelessly, trying to improve their speed, but we all have the same car, so they tend to forget the one easiest way to become faster. And that's simply to position yourself where the ball is going to go to. And most of the time that is impossible if you're off grabbing the 100 boosts in the corners of the map. So having good boost management will make you a more active player on the field. Boost management could be a video on its own, but here are a couple tips to get you started. The first tip I'm sure you've heard before is to pick up the pennies. The pennies are worth 12 boosts each, and there's basically always going to be pennies available whenever you're trying to go from point A to point B. So just pick up the pennies that are on the way instead of going out of your way to get 100 boosts and then wasting some of that boost to jet it to point B. Because unless the ball ends up in that area, the 100 boosts are sometimes a trap. Going for the 100 boosts at a bad time can leave your goal wide open or leave your teammate in a 2v1. One thing to know is that when you're max speed as indicated by these speed lines everywhere, using more boost doesn't get you faster. You can keep the speed simply by holding down the throttle. So any boost you use while you're supersonic is a waste. Except when you're about to turn, because when you turn, that's when you lose some of your speed. Although flips are kind of committal and can be dangerous, using them at the right moments to get speed can be a huge saver for your boost. Just using 10 boosts and flipping into supersonic can save you a lot of boost compared to just holding down your boost to hit supersonic. My third boost management tip is that you only need 20 boosts to save anything from the far post position. So when you're in a pinch, grab 2 pennies and head back. Getting that 100 boost, as mentioned before, might get you scored on. This actually works very well with the far post rotation tip, because if you ever find yourself doing a challenge in the corner and this 100 boost is gone, you'll notice that rotating back near post is actually going to get you 0 boost. But if you rotate back far post, you have a lot of chances to grab 2 pennies before you make it back to the far post position. For our final boost tip, don't use too much boost while rotating. Certain things in Rocket League you need boost for, like aerials, but you don't really need to use boost to drive from point A to point B. So don't use too much boost while rotating, or else you're not going to have enough left to even play the position correctly when you get there. In a perfect world, you and your teammate would never double commit. You would rotate beautifully around one another in perfect unison. But this is not a perfect world. This is Rocket League. The creative and dynamic environment we love makes it impossible to thrive without adaptability. So it is up to you to avoid double commits. Verge explained in his rotations guide that each player has a range of coverage where they are able to play the ball, and a double commit limits your team's coverage to this tiny corner. So when you're the player who is playing back, try to buy your teammates some time and let them start the recovery and rotation before you push in to avoid initiating a double commit. This is most common when playing defense and you're worried your teammate is going to lose, so you push into the corner with them. But the next time you see your teammate already covering one area, just be patient and cover their backs. When it comes to ball chasing teammates, you have to especially be willing to give up your turn. Even if it might be your turn to play the ball, if you see or hear your teammate going as well, slam on the brakes and rotate out. Bait their challenge and capitalize on the results. It might suck to get a ball chasing teammate, but it'll just be way worse if you try to out ball chase them. Our final tip of the day has to do with your settings. The default Rocket League settings leave a lot to be desired. The default camera settings are just way too close to the car, so you're going to want to zoom it out a little bit, but definitely don't go anything like this, that's way too far. On screen, I'm going to show a range of recommended settings for both camera and controller. Settings are hugely personal preference, so as long as you're kind of within this range, you should be good. A couple other settings I definitely recommend as well is turning this camera shake off. And this one is completely up to you. I personally like to have the nameplate scale up to 200% just to make it a little bit easier for me to see where everyone is. And when it comes to the video, I personally like full screen with anti-aliasing off. Render detail, I put it at performance, and then I only bump the texture detail to high quality and do high quality shaders. As for keybinds, I have pretty weird ones, but if we change it to default, I think the main thing that you want to fix is your power slide. Your power slide and arrow can actually be on the exact same key. So I'm actually like to put arrow as left bumper and power slide on left bumper. That makes it a little bit easier for you to power slide while boosting. And the last keybind I make sure to change is the scoreboard right here. You don't really need it on left bumper. It's not something you press that often, so I like to put this on select. Everything else is generally personal preference. I really like using separate arrow left and arrow right keys as opposed to just only having the basic arrow. So I usually set that as well. And that's it for my 10 tips to help you get out of the lower ranks. As I mentioned before, it's not going to be everything you need to get out, but I hope you found these tips helpful. And maybe they can give you a leg up for our brand new Season 1. If you have any questions or any specific topics you'd like me to cover, please let me know in the comments below. I literally read every single comment, so I promise you your questions will not be lost into the ether. It might take me a little time to answer, but I will get to it. Thank you so much for watching, and I will catch you next time.